still obviously a very critical time in the market. We've got some pretty big announcements this week. The FOMC, so the interest rate meeting, could easily see a move down before we go higher. And that down move, if Bitcoin drops 5%, altcoins are down double digits again.
It's times like this when, the markets are boring, where actually it presents an opportunity to allocate your investment strategy to those risk-on assets, to the altcoins, because this is where you're going to get them at the biggest discount. This is when people are trying to risk off the most. It's one of those things about balancing. We don't know exactly what's going to happen. There's so much uncertainty, especially, with Trump and the macro and whatnot. But often taking risks during these times can pay off. G'day guys, welcome back to another episode of Tapping Into Crypto. I'm here with the good man Pav. Pav, how's things, mate?
It's good to have the good man Ted with me.
Appreciate it, mate. Do you enjoy Magic Round in Brizzy?
I had a different type of Magic Round. I had the type of Magic Round where your wife goes to do musical rehearsals all weekend and leaves you at home with 3 lovely children.
Beautiful. So not much footy then?
Well, it was tackling.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Good to see. Get them started young. No, look, it was good time.
Yeah, you went, didn't you?
No, I was in Sydney.
Yeah.
But I was watching it, and look, it was a good event. SwiftX had some good exposure.
Yep. Really cool. One game, the Cows vs Warriors, phenomenal. That was tight.
Yeah, I missed that one.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Sorry, you just watched one where the Broncos got towed up?
Yeah, watched the Broncos get towed.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
That's all right, mate. It happens. But look, what's happening in the markets this week? We talked about them thawing last week. Since then, it's been pretty sort of sideways action.
Yep.
So what we're going to do this week is we're going to break down 4 expert opinions in the market.
Something a bit different, Ted.
Something a little bit different. Who have we got? We've got Arthur Hayes. We've got Jim Cramer. I know you're a big fan of him.
Love the big JC.
Famously had some pretty shocking Bitcoin calls over the last couple of years.
Is he the most consistent person out there?
Consistently bad, you could say.
Still consistent.
That's consistency.
Still consistent.
Okay, so let's get things kicked off. Who have you got for us first, Pav?
All right, so I'll kick off with someone from my own followings. Trader Mercury, or Mercury, he goes by the name of. So he put a tweet out a few days ago, and this was his take on just the way the sort of landscape is in his view. So he says, besides a handful of coins, the market is moving pretty slow. Feels reminiscent to September 2024 when everyone lost interest even through the higher highs when they were being made. Market is clearly shifting more favorably towards the bulls on a long-term basis, or at least threatening to. I imagine most are waiting for the next forward-looking bullish catalyst to reframe their own perspective and start buying the dip. But just like last time, by the time it's obvious, it's already too late. So, I mean, for this one, I've heard this before, specifically from this person. I thought it's a very good representation of even like how I'm sort of seeing the markets as well.
Yeah.
Very commonly, you never get that gentleman entry, gentleman exit. It's always too early, too late to get in, to get out.
Yeah.
So it's more about allocating risk at like a good time. So, in terms of what he's saying, like I'm very much of the same opinion, like we spoke about last week. A lot of the parts of the engine are on, they're warm, ready to go, just waiting for something to hit the accelerator down.
Yeah.
So I'm excited, but it's still obviously a very critical time in the market where, I was going to point to it as well, as much as I don't want to talk about macro. We've got some pretty big announcements this week. The FOMC, so the interest rate meeting, could easily see a move down before we go higher. And that down move, if Bitcoin drops 5%, altcoins are down double digits again. Yeah. So that's enough to scare people off even now when they're still trying to work out what to do.
Yeah.
What do you sort of take from?
No, I think
like that?
as you said, like I think often we see when the times are good, people start flooding into the markets, trying to get in on certain altcoins, but by that stage it's often too late.
Yeah.
But it's times like this when, the markets are boring, where actually it presents an opportunity to allocate some of your investment strategy to those risk-on assets, to the altcoins, because this is where you're going to get them at the biggest discount, right? But this is when people are trying to risk off the most, right? So it's one of those things about balancing. Like we don't know exactly what's going to happen. There's so much uncertainty, especially with Trump and the macro and whatnot. But often taking risks during these times can pay off, as Mercury is alluding to here. However, with that said, you gotta
weigh it up for yourself.
Yeah, exactly. You gotta weigh it up in your personal situation. But look, who knows? I think it's always like For me, I like to, in these situations, I always like to dollar cost average, into some of those bigger holdings I have. It's typically hard to pick altcoins at a time like this. But what do you look at? You look at the fundamentals. You look at who's been building the biggest, in the bear market, right? Because they're the ones who are going to fare the best.
Yep.
And so yeah, I think Mercury is probably onto something here. But it's not that much of a big call to make.
No, it's not a big call, but it's still, yeah, it is definitely like one of those things. It works either way if the market goes up or down. But yeah, I'd like to think that now, like the fact that no one's paying attention, like if everyone can't win, only a few can really, really win.
Yeah,
feels like the right time and space that you could probably find those gems if you're looking.
That's it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you who's got a big call.
Go on.
It's Arthur Hayes. So for anyone that doesn't know Arthur Hayes, he was the CEO of BitMEX. It was like an exchange way back in the day. He was one of the first sort of adopters in crypto, and now he's just like a big voice in the crypto space.
Yeah, massive, just colorful voice.
Very colorful, and he makes some controversial, pieces. He writes really well, and he's very funny, a bit crude and crass, but it's always quite interesting.
But definitely like a hype man in both directions. So I think he's been criticized for that quite a bit in the recent past. But look,
exactly.
It's fine.
Look, he keeps it entertaining.
Which
is what we're trying to do here.
Yeah.
But look, there's two parts to this. So the main part is he's talking about the strategic reserve not getting approved, right?
Wait, didn't it get reserved? What?
No. So that was a stockpile, but he's referring to a strategic reserve where the US government actively
goes and
buys up Bitcoin, whether that be through taxpayer money, printing out more money, or through other methods where we've mentioned, revaluing their gold assets, potentially through tariff revenue as well. So it's like there's a lot of different ways, but he's come out and said that he doesn't think, because of Trump's image, and he's the image of Trump is currently tumbling because of the tariff, and his approval rating is tumbling. So he doesn't think Trump is going to do that, because currently the narrative around crypto is, if we buy crypto, who are the people that are going to fare the best? It's the crypto bros who are just going to go, and I think he uses the term, go down to the club for champagne, or like buy bottles of champagne at the clubs. So he doesn't think, like optics wise, that's going to be a very good move for Trump, and so Trump's going to avoid that. However, he follows it up by saying, do I think Bitcoin's going to hit $1 million by 2030? He thinks it's going to hit it before 2028.
Before 28?
Which 2028 sounded like a long time, maybe last year or the year before. Now it's like, that's close.
Yeah, it's close.
That's real close.
Did he say anything about why 2028?
Yeah, so he justifies it. So he says the changing in sentiment when it comes to institutional investment. So we've seen the ETFs, but also like he says, like in the last couple of years, sentiment around Bitcoin has changed from like, it's like a
drug money.
It's like a Nasdaq-y. No, not even that. Like even just like, it's like a Nasdaq-y type risk on asset to this is a hedge against the current.
It's a global asset.
Yeah, against all of America's shortcomings.
Yep.
And he says like, appetite is just growing, particularly with institutions. And the fact that it is a global asset also helps as well. So $1 million by 2028.
It's not bad. I mean, that's like Michael Saylor. He always talks about Bitcoin being only $0.1 million. Like always just framing it like it's destined to hit the big one.
It's a smart tactic.
Well, let me tell you someone who doesn't think it's going to get to $1 million. Our good friend Jim Cramer. So Jim Cramer, famous host of Mad Money. I think a lot of people would say, even if they're in crypto now, they probably got started on Jim Cramer in the Mad Money days, just getting them even interested in financial markets. So we'll give him that. Like,
it's like a show on American free-to-air TV, and he just talks about the stock market, right? And
stocks are buys, they're sells, gives advice, but it's not advice because he's talking to a global audience on TV, so it's not personalized. So he's
always had some pretty shocking takes. I watched a Netflix doco about how he was talking about Goldman Sachs. It was an absolute buy. Like you can't go wrong. And then it had all that fraud like come out, and it absolutely tanked. So
anything, he's got the kiss of death.
But he seems to just like take it in his stride as well. Anyway, what's he said?
Well, he has said in the last 8 hours today on a Tuesday that I don't believe Bitcoin can reach $500,000 per coin, let alone 1 million. That's impossible. So for all of those that have been playing along at home, Jim Cramer's tweets on a Bitcoin chart, you'll notice that it does the exact opposite every time he says what sort of, if it's positive or negative.
Well, famously, he's been pretty anti-Bitcoin.
Recently,
and
annoyingly.
Then recently, he's like, you know what? People should buy some Bitcoin or something to that nature. And then, it's called the inverse Cramer indicator. And
I think there used to be an ETF in the US that was the inverse Cramer.
fuck,
I think
yeah.
it closed down recently, but it basically just fade the opposite of what he said.
Well, I mean, like, what's he said? Has he had anything to back this up, or is he just making a statement?
Couldn't find the context, just statements. So obviously would have been on his show.
Yeah.
But I mean, for all of us, you know, it's very much a sigh of relief because I was seeing his calls for everyone you can't afford not to have Bitcoin in your portfolio with like some of his recent calls. And that was before we saw like a bit of a tumble in the market. So, you know, I'm very keen to be seeing this sort of message coming from the big man. So could be quite positive for us.
Yeah, wonderful. Okay. Our last expert is Matt Hogan. I think that's how it's pronounced. He's the Chief Investment Officer at Bitwise. So Bitwise offer Bitcoin ETFs in the US. So he releases like a weekly sort of piece on his blog, and they're usually pretty interesting. He's saying at the moment that the US Congress could fumble the crypto ball at the 1 yard line. And what he's referring to there is everything's lining up for crypto at the moment, right? You know, especially with the new Trump administration being so positive with crypto, appointing Paul Atkins at the SEC, you know, the stockpile, you know, everything in regards to regulation and the current administration is good for crypto. But he's saying that there is a little bit of division at the moment, obviously with the Republicans and the Democrats, particularly when it comes to this stablecoin bill. So the stablecoin bill, and he says the stablecoin bill is beneficial for everyone in the US. It's beneficial for crypto because it broadens the access to the market, which is true. Benefits Wall Street because it creates a new profit center. We know how profitable stablecoins can be, particularly you look at Tether, how profitable they are. And then for DC, so, you know, the government, stablecoins are a massive buyer of US debt, and they're a tool for extending dollar dominance around the world. So what he means there is, you know, stablecoins are typically held 1-to-1 with a US dollar or US dollar equivalent. And so that can often mean like
government
bonds, so US debt. So obviously it helps.
Similar to what your bank does. That's how they give you your interest rates at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. But he's saying like this stablecoin bill got passed. It got approved by or got voted in by both Republicans and Democrats. But now, you know, since Trump's had a little bit of a tumble and his approval rating is tumbling a little bit as well, they're withdrawing their support for that bill. Right? They're saying it's to do with it doesn't have enough KYC and anti-money laundering practices in place. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But there's what's our good friend's name, Matt? He is speculating that it's to do with Trump's performance and Trump's sort of bit of a technical difficulty. One of our fancy orange lights went bust here, but the show goes on, Pav.
That's what happens when you got fancy equipment. Sometimes it gets bust.
That's it, mate. These things happen. But where were we? We're talking about Matt Hogan from Bitwise. Anyway, long story short, he thinks that, you know, because of Trump's polarizing, you know, he's a polarizing figure in the US, this could affect the fact that, you know, crypto regulation getting passed through by Congress because, you know, the Democrats are so anti-Trump that they just want to, you know, deny anything that he's or the Republicans are looking to pass through. Which I think would be a real shame. Because obviously, as he mentioned, all those three things are going to benefit the crypto market, the government, you know, even Wall Street. I think overall it's a good thing for the market. In terms of like a more comprehensive crypto bill, we're yet to see that being proposed. Like this is obviously just stable coins, but it doesn't take into account Bitcoin, the crypto market, crypto firms as a whole.
I think they got August as a mandate, right? Like the 6 months to go work it out and come back with a plan. So still got that to look forward to.
Yeah, is that the task force? Yeah. So we'll see what happens there. But at the moment, it looks like it's just stable coins that are being
that's fine
proposed.
too, to be honest. Yeah.
I mean, we've seen it in the EU, so they probably want to catch up there.
Pretty much.
But look, he's a bit concerned that, you know, things could tumble just due to political reasons and political jockeying.
Wouldn't that be a shame?
Anyway, that's our 4 hot takes.
Yeah, I thought that was a nice little spread of different, I guess, angles of where the market is right now, from regulatory, to even just what to, you know, get in the eyes of and thoughts of a trader right now, thinking about, you know, when things are quiet, it's probably the best time to pay attention. And you got Arthur just saying crazy stuff as well.
$1 million by 2028.
$1 million. Won't be bad. But look, that's
I wouldn't
it
be
from...
mad at that. No, we've got someone to call out. So,
Well, yeah.
SwiftX has a refer a friend promotion running at the moment, and we got to call it out because it's pretty juicy. So, you refer a friend, you and that friend will both get $30 each in Bitcoin if that friend verifies deposits and trades within a 30-day period. So, make sure you get in, refer as many friends as you want because there's no limit. You know, Pav's been referring his whole family. I think he's up to a couple $100 in just referral fees.
Just going on the bus on the weekends.
That's it.
Signing people up.
But this is only for May. So, if you do it in May, they'll still have the 30 days post that, but the promotion is only available during May. So make sure you get in. I will chuck a link in the show notes for that.
No, sounds good. And, if we've got that $1 million Bitcoin, $30, go a long way.
That could go a long way.
Could go a very long way.
By 2028.
By 2028.
All right. Thank you, guys. Catch you next week.
Thank you.